First reading is from Genesis. The Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And in you all families of the earth shall be blessed." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. The word of the Lord.
So over the years, I have become more interested in genealogy and kind of figuring out where my ancestors came from and what towns they were from and all these kinds of things. And I had a lot of ancestors who came from Germany. So I have spent time over the years trying to figure out which actual places they came from. Because as some of you know, my idea of genealogy is find the towns in Germany that your ancestors came from, go there and drink beer. And it's been a great genealogical expedition so far. But usually when I go to these towns, I can't find anybody that I'm related to because either all of the ancestors that I knew about left and took all of their siblings with them, so everybody left and nobody's there anymore, or else it was so long ago that nobody remembers us. Or nobody wants to remember us, that's possible also. But about 15 years ago, I found this little town that one of my great-great-grandfathers was from. And I went there and we contacted the pastor of the church and we said, hey, are there any people still living in the town with that last name? And I was hoping to find out, yeah, there were a couple or maybe there weren't or whatever. But because he had really, really good church records, why I remember to have really, really good church records. He could go down through the list and tell me which person had which kids and where they were, and he ended up with street addresses of people that were family members that still lived in the town. So my family and I have been able to meet up with those folks and get to know them a little bit. But last month when I was in Germany, I got to meet the one cousin that I had not met of this group. And so we got together, I got together with her and her boyfriend to drink beer and have dinner, and we started talking a little bit about the history of the family that we knew about. And she's a cousin on my mother's side of the family, and the town that we were actually in was a place that I had come to partly because I wanted to study some people that were from my father's side of the family. And so she asked me a little bit about that, and she said, "So, your father's family, why did they leave? Why did they leave?" We know why people on my mother's side of the family left. It was because there was just no work in the town. There has never been work in the town. And when I asked my cousin, when you finish your graduate work, are you going back there? She says, not on your life. But why did my father's family leave? And I'm not really sure. I suspect it was also because there was very little economic opportunity. But it's an interesting question to think about. Why people are willing to get up and leave a country they live in and go to some place they've never been before. Although a lot of us might like to think that the reason that our ancestors came here was because they were, from nobility and they came here for great, wonderful things. Most people that came to the United States came here under very difficult circumstances. Some people came here because they were kicked out of the countries that they were living in at the time. We pass over this around Thanksgiving, but the Pilgrims who came to the United States first were first living in Holland because they had already been kicked out of England for not practicing the right religion. Some people came to this country because they were dragged out of their countries, literally at gunpoint, and came here forced to be slaves. And then there were other people who, maybe like some of my ancestors, came here because life and opportunity just seemed so dim where they were. The prospects of having a future at all seemed so dim that they were willing to pick up, leave everybody and everything behind, going to a place they had never been before with some hope that maybe they would be able to have a future at all in this new place. That's usually why people left. But then there's Abraham, who's still called Abram in today's Old Testament reading. Why did he leave? God tells him to get up and leave the country he lives in and go to a new country. But why did he leave? I mean, Abraham is kind of the stereotypical fat, dumb, and happy guy. He is perfectly content where he is. As far as we can tell, Abraham is part of the ruling class in the country in which he lives. He is rich. He has flocks and herds and slaves. He wants for nothing. And God doesn't ever threaten him with disaster or death if he doesn't get up and move. So why did he leave? Why did he go? Well, like some of my ancestors, it's not always clear, but as you read through the rest of Genesis, it's possible that the reason Abraham decided to get up and move was because God gave him a new sense of vision for his life. You know, things were pretty good for Abraham, but maybe he was just kind of plugging along in his life, doing the same thing day after day. Maybe he figured that everything that was possible for him to accomplish, he had already accomplished. There were a few things that he thought maybe it would be nice if they happened, like having children, but that hadn't happened, and that seemed far off the horizon now. So he probably thought, you know what, my life is just sort of the way my life is, and that's all there is. But God comes along and gives him this idea that somehow or other, God is going to do greater things with him. For a guy who thought maybe the last great things in his life had happened, were already over, God says, no, not yet. There's a new possibility. Think bigger about your life. And maybe it was that kind of bigger vision in his life that made Abraham get up and move. Maybe for Abraham, God's call in his life gave him a renewed sense of purpose. Because, you know, Abraham was pretty rich, and he really didn't need anything for himself. But now God says he's going to do something great with him and make a great nation of him. Maybe Abraham had invested all of his time and energy in things that didn't seem maybe to make that much difference anymore. Or maybe like a lot of us, you know, he had spent a lot of his time trying to make sure that he was secure and he was going to have enough for retirement, kids through college and all that kind of stuff. But now that was all done, and he didn't have any kind of like big picture goal for his life. There was, what's the purpose of moving on? But God says, you know what? There's a bigger purpose for you now. There's a bigger goal in front of you. And maybe he needed that goal. And maybe it was looking forward to that goal that made him get up and move. And maybe for Abraham, God's call was an opportunity to find meaning beyond himself, or even beyond his own family and friends. To really have purpose in your life, you need to have meaning beyond yourself. Abraham had taken good care of himself, and his family, and his friends. He had done it all, but now what? Now, God gives him an intriguing offer. In you, God says, all the families of the earth will be blessed. Your life will have meaning to everyone, everywhere. That was intriguing to Abraham. Maybe that was why he got up and he moved, because he saw a renewed sense of meaning for his life, that his life was going to have meaning beyond himself. So what about us? Are we ready to get up and move when God calls in our lives? Lent is a time when we're supposed to be especially kind of open to listening for God's call, and for God's call to get up and move to a new place. Like with Abraham, that could be a new physical place, but it might also be a new emotional place, a new spiritual place. Or maybe what God is calling us to do is to leave behind an old routine that doesn't seem to work anymore, so that we can live in a new way. And sometimes, when we're in those kinds of situations, it's hard for us to get up and move, even if we realize, you know what, maybe it is time, and it is necessary to get up and move, because even when things aren't going so great, at least we know the routine, and we're comfortable with it, and like Abraham, you can be a little bit of fat, dumb, and happy just right where you are, and you don't want to move. And at those times in our lives, I think God wants us also to consider His call in each of our lives to a new sense of vision for our lives. And sometimes that begins with asking whether we're just plugging along in life, stuck in a routine that maybe isn't fulfilling anymore. Are we just going through the motions? Or are we really working towards some kind of bigger vision? God asked Abraham to consider that God had a bigger mission for his life. And that's God's question for us as well. God calls us to think about his call in our life and to consider whether or not God is calling us to larger purpose. See, in getting stuck in routines, we sometimes also lose sight of purpose. Why are we doing this? Why are we investing ourselves in this? It's not just a question for us each as individuals, but as communities as well. As a Christian community, what's our purpose? Why does God need us to be here in this place? What do we do as God's people together as a Christian community that God is not doing through any other group of people? Those kind of purpose questions are not just for Abraham, but for us as well. And I think God's call in our life also is a call to consider meaning that we can have in the life of others. Because ultimately, vision and purpose can't be about ourselves or preserving ourselves, our institutions, or our routines. Otherwise, Abraham could have just stayed put. But God calls us also to ask how the vision and purpose to which he calls us can affect others, so that we can become channels of God's goodness and life in the lives of others as well. Being channels, being people who can have meaning to others, share God's meaning with others, is part of the call in our lives, just as it was for Abraham. So why did Abraham leave where he was? Why did he keep moving throughout the whole rest of his life? I think it was because he found vision and purpose and meaning in God's continual call. And as we remember this story, it's important for us to remember and realize that God did not stop with Abraham. In fact, God was just beginning. God still calls people to get up and move. It's God's call to you and to me. And it's always a call that comes with vision and purpose and meaning that God is seeking to give to our lives and to the lives of every family on the face of the earth.